Every day we have is a gift. Each day I strive to be joyful and happy. Let's appreciate every moment. Let's find happiness together and make it a daily practice. My hopes are to use my education, personal awareness, and network to empower, engage, and motivate you and me to live a happier life as we turn the page to our next chapter. This is where I enter. On today's episode, Dr. Reeves is joined by Dr. Antonio Lopez, Ron Gaddis, Terrell Bilbo, and your viewer feedback. Stay tuned for the next chapter with Dr. Reeves. Change and growth take place when a person has visited himself and dares to become involved with experimenting with his own life. Herbert Otto.
Welcome back to Next Chapter. I'm so excited that you're here as I take my journey of healing and restoration as we conclude our series on abuse, abandonment, and unaddressed childhood trauma. I had the pleasure and the honor to finally speak with the men. So they're here, they're going to share their stories and their expertise and help me further the dialogue on some of the topics that I talked about recently in some of the previous episodes. So thank you for tuning in. Put on your listening cap and stay tuned as we engage in this wonderful conversation. First and foremost, we have Dr. Anthony Lopez and also Mr. Ron Gaddis. Dr. Lopez, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you address your clients who have experienced unaddressed trauma?
Absolutely. So I am a licensed professional counselor, and I have an office actually not too far from here. And although I address, various issues that may require therapy, or maybe they may not require it, but definitely therapy aids in the healing or the processing of trauma is one of the most prevalent things that have been coming through my office. That in combination with the anxiety and depression that are usually come in tandem with trauma. So the way that I address it, every therapist is pretty much different. Although we have the same school of training, our personalities and our styles are very different. For me, I like to make sure that my clients understand that I'm there for them, and I don't like to waste people's time or money. I'm sure they have better things to do with their time, better things to buy with their money. And so I'm very transparent and direct, and I forewarn them. It's about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, and about me pushing them to process and understand so that they can heal, and if they need to either forgiveness for themselves, forgiveness for those that have hurt them, just get through that piece. I feel that that's perhaps one of the most important things that happens at the office as I work with patients, survivors or victims of trauma. It's different.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Lopez. And I know that Mr. Gaddis, he's going to tell his story, so I would like for us to really engage and offer any recommendations or solutions that you may have to not only Mr. Gaddis, but also to the audience here as we work through unaddressed trauma, childhood trauma, particularly what I've been dealing with, that I didn't even know I was dealing with. But, we're just having an open conversation, open dialogue, and kind of getting to the root of a lot of this stuff. So Mr. Gaddis, can you tell us a little bit about you and your personal story?
Yes, first of all, I'm a minister as well, and throughout my struggle in my childhood, it started out my father having some issues himself, and me being the recipient of physical and mental abuse. And as I got older, those symptoms were never treated. And the thing is, noticing that there are signs, but during that time frame, mental illness wasn't thought of and looked upon as it is now. And as I got older, there were some signs. And my sister, who works with mental illness advocates, she kept telling my mother that there was a problem with me, but my mother was in a different mindset, just saying, "Oh, he's just in denial, having hate towards his father." But my sister kept telling her, "Mother, there's a problem with him." But eventually, as time went on, I had an incident where I was in a relationship and things didn't go too well. My ex-girlfriend at the time, her ex-boyfriend threatened me, and I had gotten a gun, and the gun was too short, so I got a smaller gun. So he and I had an altercation, and I ended up getting 10 years deferred adjudication probation. And even throughout that, I still didn't get the proper help. There were still scars and mental wounds that wasn't properly healed. And eventually, I completed the probation. I ended up, thank God, I have a son. And throughout the relationship, there were still scars and there were still mental episodes that wasn't truly addressed. And lo and behold, I went through a series of losses of loved ones. I lost my grandfather in 2011. Then a year later, I lost my grandmother. And 4 months later, my mother was diagnosed with cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
And my friend at the time was telling me about my mental health. Are you taking your medicine? Have you been diagnosed? Just what's going on with you? You need to get yourself together. And I didn't really take heed to it. But eventually, it just got to a point in 2019, leading up to 2020, I practically had a nervous breakdown. I lost a job, and even relationship issues were just me trying to maintain and be a father. Things just didn't, it just fell apart, a snowball effect. So lo and behold, I go to Louisiana to get help. COVID hits, and in the midst of that, I lose a cousin to cancer. And on the same day of my cousin's funeral, my close friend dies of COVID the same day of the funeral. Then exactly 1 month later, almost the exact same day, I find my cousin laid out dead of a heart attack. But since then, I have been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder with extreme traumatization from scars. And I tell people, take your medication to cope with what you're dealing with. Now, I go and minister to guys in the Dallas area who have been incarcerated, because I have been incarcerated for that time when I was on probation leading up to my sentencing of probation. You know, I could have been to the penitentiary, but hey, thank God I didn't. So I'm no better than those guys that have been to the penitentiary. So I tell them, hey, I'm no better than you. And if God can help me, He can help you as well.
Thank you for sharing. But I want to go back, because I think we've been talking about this.
Right.
And I think for myself also, it's like you wake up and it's like, how did I get here?
Right.
What happened? And you're trying to put those pieces back together. So you're saying, and I'm listening to your story and I read your bio, but also I just want to go back a little bit, and maybe Dr. Lopez can jump in here. A lot of us, we just think, well, how did this happen? How did I end up here? Not knowing that the scars and the abuse and the trauma has caused us in our adulthood to react this way. Mr. Lopez, Dr. Lopez, can you talk a little bit about that? Because he's saying, well, what happened? I know, like you said, your sister said she saw some signs. And so often, especially in the African American community, we just don't address it. Oh, he gonna be okay.
Right.
Or Uncle Sam, he all right, something wrong with him. Let him go ahead and lay down. But we don't know that all this stuff begins to fester over time. And then we have so many generations that's come up that are coming behind us that are being abused, that suffer trauma. It's a cyclical cycle that repeats itself. So I think what we're trying to do with next chapter is break some of those generational curses by us having this dialogue now. So what do you remember as a child? Do you remember being physically abused, verbally abused, that may have contributed to your situation in your adulthood? Because like you said, you didn't know how you got there.
Right.
And Dr. Lopez,
If I can jump in.
yes, please.
Because you said something, you emphasized on the fact that his sister saw some of the signs and she brought it up. And I feel that one of the biggest issues that we do have is not knowing what we don't know, especially in the community of color. Yes, it's a stereotype, and yes, perhaps it's a stigma as well. But oftentimes it's also not being aware or knowledgeable of the resources that are out there available. And so I can't get help if I don't know, one, that I need help, and two, that there is help available. And that goes to you. And one, knowing something's off, you know yourself, you recognize that this is not the way it's supposed to be. And two, okay, but now what do I do with it? And I feel that perhaps, when you answer the question about what it was for you growing up with this type of abuse, I'm sure you're going to tell us how it manifested.
Can you recall maybe the first time you experienced abuse? Or you think that you did? Or?
I can recall as a child, excuse me, we were getting ready to go to church one particular Sunday, and my tie was kind of leaning, and my mother was in the way my parents' house was when I was a child. They had a bathroom and a bedroom, and she goes in the bedroom. Well, she goes in the bathroom. And my father knows my tie is crooked, so he notices, he snatches me, and I kind of leaned from the reaction. Before I knew it, wow, and then my whole face was just numb. It's the difference between discipline and abuse, and that was a lot more aggressive than punishment. And it was like a repetition from then on. That's where it started, and I can recall as I got older, my fear of being around my father. It's like coming around him, I would just get nauseous when I would ride in the car with him.
I know that feeling.
And then when the bus would pull up and his car would be under the driveway, he would be pulling up. It was just, my stomach would just be in knots. And it got to the point as I got older, the fear turned into anger. And I can recall an episode, we were out for a particular holiday or in service when teachers or the students were out. My mother was away, and my younger siblings weren't at home, and I had got the gun. And my intentions was I was going to kill him. But lo and behold, a car pulls up. I thought it was him. It was my grandma. She saved me. And that particular day, she told me, "You look like something is wrong with you. What's wrong?" And I told her about it. So I started spending a lot more time with her. She kind of shielded me away from that, But as I look back now, those were signs then. The trauma was taking effect, and no one really, I guess, saw that. Hey, there's something wrong with him. But like I said, it's good to have people to recognize it, because if you don't get the help early, something is gonna happen.
That's good. And again, I think that's very prevalent in our culture, in our communities, that we don't say anything. But like Dr. Lopez said, we don't know what to say. We don't know how to resolve it.
Did you find yourself being short-tempered with your son?
No, it's funny that you asked me that. My son, he was a special needs child, and he required, I can say he was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because he required a lot of patience. And kids with those disabilities, they're the kindest people, and he was a joy to me. So he was pretty much therapeutic to me in the midst of what I was going through. And the thing I did learn, I always said that I'm not going to do to my son what my father did to me. So in the midst of what my father did to me, I didn't prolong a cycle with him. So
Sounds to me like you found a purpose.
Right.
That's good. And that's good. And Dr. Lopez, I want to circle back to you for a second. As we're talking about abuse, what are the consequences of abuse? As we can see, Mr. Gaddis, he's suffered a lot of that. But can you talk a little bit more about the consequences of abuse, especially in adulthood, now that we're adults? how does that carry over to our children, to our family, workplace, community?
Absolutely. Let me preface this with, it's going to look different for everybody. I myself have been through my share of trauma, homelessness, sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, you name it. And some of the consequences that it can bring, you may or may not, depending on who you are and your support system, does come to become transgenerational, meaning, I'm hurt, so I'm going to hurt somebody else. As I was working through my dissertation, one of the things that I found in it is that it was a lot of it had to do with taking some power back. Other pieces of consequences may be promiscuity, when in the case of sexual abuse, the sense of self-worth, value, how you engage in relationships, how much respect do you have for yourself and your body? Is it always a trade or transactional? And so there are a lot of ways that unaddressed trauma can influence relationships in young adults and in grown, once you full maturity. And unless you are aware, you may not be able to break that cycle of abuse, whether it's homelessness or sexual abuse, mental abuse, all the different types of trauma can be broken if there's enough awareness, support, and healing that needs to happen. Because you first need to heal yourself so that you can then take that step.
It was after my nervous breakdown when I came to Louisiana to get into a facility to get the help. And lo and behold, after the losses of loved ones, that's when I finally truly accepted that I have a problem and stopped being afraid to tell people, hey, I have a problem. And I've learned that you can't really worry about how people are going to accept you regardless of what you have. And that's when the healing process started to help.
Can you give us 3 recommendations, or give the audience 3 recommendations or potential solutions on how to move, especially for the men? Mr. Gaddis has shared his story, and he's getting his healing, thank God. But for those people that are, the men that are stuck, even the women that are stuck, and we've often talked about that, like you said, Mr. Gaddis, some people just give up. They don't know what to do.
I can tell you that your network of support is very important. Even in the case of complex trauma, where it is your caregiver, guardian that is being the abuser in this case, find yourself a support system. Tap into that. If it is your church, if it is your neighbor, your people that you trust. 2, be honest with yourself and understand that whatever trauma it is not your fault. You didn't cause this. You are simply either a victim or, in my case, a survivor of it. And 3, and I feel that this is the most important one, understand that faith is, for me, has been the one thing that has taken me above, past everything that I have been through. For me, my faith, my love for God, and my service in doing what I do has been what has kept me moving forward. I can't stress that enough, because as long as you have that faith and you have that value in what God is able to do for you and for me, there's nothing that we can't do and we can't get past.
Can you wrap us up and tell us what you're doing now?
I do ministry work in the South Dallas area. I go to jails and prisons, reaching out to brothers and sisters who need help as far as with traumatizing events that have happened in their lives. And I have a website, rongaddis2020.com. If you want to reach out to me and have any type of questions about how I can help you in reaching the next step to getting the healing and the help.
And Dr. Lopez, how can we get in contact with you?
You can call me and leave me a voicemail, 713-999-0190, or you can go to Psychology Today, look me up.
Thank you both for joining me on my journey.
Dr. Grant, I want to start with you. It's well established that men in general are less likely to seek help and are much more likely to end up with bad outcomes like suicide. Could you take that lens and focus it more on the Black male experience?
I think that's a wonderful question. When we look at how mental health operationalizes itself and we kind of drop that inside toxic masculinity or any type of masculinity, many of us have been trained early on not to be able to access our feelings. Many boys are raised being told, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to emote. And we know that crying is actually one of the biological abilities that we have to literally release stress from our bodies. And so I think that's the first thing as it relates to general masculinity. And then we have the injuries associated with interpersonal and structural racism that really even make it more challenging for Black men to really access the words or the thoughts, because there may be a risk to a loss of social capital or physical capital if in fact you engage in this space and are honest about what this looks like for us. And I don't want to minimize also the systems of the healthcare world that have disenfranchised Black people across history. There's a great book called Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington that speaks to how these things have happened. And so when we add on top of the environment, racism, and the mistrust that many of us have with the mental health community, which there's evidence to demonstrate there's some truth to it. The Tuskegee experiment was within the living memory. And even today, we don't have enough Black clinicians and we don't have enough non-Black clinicians who are culturally, empathically trained to work with Black folk. And so I think the combination of all those things together really makes it a challenging pathway forward for Black men to seek and get appropriate help.
I wanted to ask you to define epigenetics. Just for our audience, the concept involves the impact of environment and biology, but I wanted you to develop that because it's a very important concept.
It is. We historically didn't know that trauma lived inside of our DNA. We knew it impacted our body. We have some great research on that. But through the research on indigenous populations, we've learned that DNA, not the structure necessarily, not the nucleotides, but the performance of the DNA is impacted. So when individuals experience trauma, it creates these additional folds in the DNA that are oftentimes called reconstructed areas. And that impacts how the DNA presents itself to talk about hormone production or distribution in the way that a quote unquote neurotypical person would operate. For instance, with re-regulation, the DNA would prompt something to happen to bring in those dopamine molecules inside the synaptic space and say, okay, the threat is gone, you're cool now. Epigenetics may make it such that the DNA does not direct the hormone process in that same way. And what research is showing now is that historical experiences with trauma can create those epigenetic folds that result in a different functionality of the entire body. And it's so frightening to watch. We see what's happening with our First Nations brothers and sisters, and we look at the substance abuse, all the outcomes, and they're highly related to the history of trauma that the colonists placed on them during colonization.
Right. So in mental health, we've wasted a lot of time. Is it nature or is it nurture? And of course, the answer is it's both.
Right.
That it has to be both, that environment impacts biology, biology impacts environment in some cases. And you're making the very important point that the historical discrimination, racism, and trauma is also a feature of this equation.
Yeah, but
Um,
think about the number of Black men who have mental health concerns that are murdered on the street by police officers or other entities, because there has been no images of a, like Harold just said, he wanted to bring humanity to this
yes.
character. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that thought,
Yeah.
because the reason why so many people are dying from white supremacy in the streets, and I use white supremacy very specifically, because those tropes are what lead us to not seeing
Hmm.
Black men in a variety of ways. And Harold plays this character with such compassion that it's going to force somebody to think twice
Yeah.
about how they treat a Black man with a mental health concern, or what they see as a mental health concern.
Yeah, Harold, let's develop that idea just a bit
Right.
before we close.
Okay.
How do you think your portrayal is helping people break up a trope, right? Break up a preconceived notion.
Um, yeah, yeah. I have a bit of a long answer, but not too long. So
We'll take it. We'll take it.
I'm a kid who grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in a very a mostly poor African American part of Brooklyn, and I went to a college in Virginia, in a very very small town, and I was introduced to things that I hadn't ever been introduced to before. Literally things as simple as someone living in a house where I lived in an apartment, like those things. And quite early on in my career and in my life, I realized that once you get to know something or you get to know someone, you suddenly have a new understanding about that thing, a very personal understanding about that.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I love being an actor and doing some of the things that I do is because I like to take the things that I've felt from people quite often when they consider me a little less than human, is I like to turn it around and then introduce them to a human being that they'd love to hang out with, to a human
Yes.
that they wouldn't mind being in their living room every day. And then the hope is that you start to see these human beings in a wide array in a wide variety of circumstances, and you can relate to them. And so that's really what I was hoping with Dean. I was hoping that, you'll see somebody maybe having some sort of episode, and you won't think, oh, that's a violent man. I remember,
Right. There it
oh,
is.
that Dean
Right.
is overstimulated, and he's probably not trying to hurt anybody. He's probably not really sure how to deal with what's happening to him. Maybe I don't want to shoot. Maybe I don't want to call the police. Maybe I don't want to assume that he's going to hurt me, and maybe I can actually even help. And so that's been my idea as an actor, and my idea specifically for this character. Like bring some kind of humanity in your living room, right where you sit. And that's hopefully what we get a chance to do weekly.
I want to switch gears and ask both of you a bigger picture question about trauma.
Yes.
Obviously, trauma is a big part of the Black male experience, and witnessing some of these catastrophically horrific videos, I think for the people in my life who are of color, has been quite traumatic. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that and how that fits into the mental health experience of Black men and what we can do about it.
It's a great question, and it's so important that we ask that question. When we talk about intergenerational trauma, we're talking about a trauma that has existed inside of our bodies for generations, and the new research on epigenetics speaks to it very broadly, and it's some amazing work. And then when you take that, it's highly activated in a setting where we're still experiencing contemporary traumas related to the exact same construct. I facilitated a call yesterday with some kids talking about racism, and a little Black boy asked, he said, well, if this was a problem and our parents were fighting against it, why is it still a problem? And it was just such a profound question coming from a 12-year-old little boy who sees adults with this level of agency that we don't have to really dismantle this. And so when you talk about trauma, it's really this chronic, complex trauma that comes from our race-based experiences. And it's now being measured in hair cortisol samples in a variety of spaces to demonstrate that this chronic trauma is having a huge impact on us. Now, I don't want to come from a deficits-based angle, because in some of us, it's creating a great deal of post-traumatic growth, and we don't want to minimize that. But we also want to acknowledge the fact that for a lot of people, it's becoming debilitating. And then you add to the fact that we're consistently seeing the replay of our murder esoterically over and over and over again. I have a reaction when I watch George Floyd dying, when I watch that knee on the neck. It's a visceral reaction for me, because it's activating historical trauma and contemporary trauma, understanding that it's continuing. And so for me, it's really important that we recognize that exists. And then we add the microaggressions to them, where something as innocuous as me walking into Nordstrom and not being served the way I feel like I should, that triggers the bigger pieces of the trauma when you get those microaggressions. And so it's important that we recognize that Black men and women are walking around in the world that is highly dangerous. I mean, the people who killed Breonna Taylor have still not been brought to justice. And that says something when you're traumatized and the world around you doesn't support you in fixing or remedying or even addressing that trauma.
There's no acknowledgement of the agency of the action, right?
That's a great way to put it. Is we oftentimes talk about the trauma associated with being oppressed, but what we don't often talk about is the trauma of existing in the role of the oppressor over generations. And so when you look at old pictures of lynchings, you're seeing 11-year-old girls standing at the foot of a Black man who was set on fire and hanged from a tree. I have a 10-year-old son. He would pass out if I took him to something like that. And so what we don't talk about is that intergenerational experience of trauma for white folk who have been identified in this oppressor role, and that the fact that that little girl standing at the foot of that lynching is now the grandmother of a college student.
Right.
And so if we really want to talk about dismantling the risk factors that impact mental health for Black men and women, we also need to talk about the individuals who purposefully or not purposefully create injuries for us that make it more challenging to remedy the ills of history and the contemporary injuries. So I think that's a really important point to make.
Very important. Thank you.
What happens to unhealed souls left to linger in bodies that hold on to trauma? The immortal imprisoned by mortals who thrive on fears stoked by lies. And where do those souls go when the trauma is intergenerational? We wear oppression so well, sometimes it's hard to tell if we know we're being oppressed. We wear stress like it's tailor fit, with a passion that becomes so fashion legit that it's marketed to make the world crave it. As we swing low, sing hymns, throw rims on sweet chariots, boil chitlins, pickle pig feet. We beat drums, dance jigs, spit intricate anti-Black misogynistic rhetoric over beats that bang harder than the hardest ghetto gangs. For what else would we do with the pain? And the pangs that come with sustained and prolonged dehumanizing debasement, degraded to a subhuman status, diabolically designed for self-hate, but where disgrace has never been an option. We even face fear with such defiance. Shackles and chains were the only way to try to tame the flame of our ancestral our ancestral beast born in the wild. Flip forward 400 pages to view how the cages have become more sophisticated, how red lines decorate maps like graffiti to dictate dominions that dampen desires. But those ancestral fires defy suffocation, stepped on, but not stamped out. Our spirits continue to dance through subjugation at every junction on our traumatic journey. We transform pain into celebratory mode, communicate code in a language colonizers can't understand, they can't decipher, but they attempt to copy because they know it's clever and cool. And still, we rise. Like embers in a wildly whistling wind. Like the love-struck sun chasing the coy moon. Like blunt smoke and our parents' blood pressure. We wear this oppressive air with such an impressive flair, only the few astute, truly fascinated by the truth, dare view our struggle to survive as art in motion. For we are abstract, admired for how we create culture from scratch with scraps. And like indigenous land, we watch it get co-opted, ransacked, and raped. And then draped in lies of meritocracy to justify the equity gap. And we dance and we rap. You see, the art of being black is often an acrobatic act in defending black humanity in a world that worships a pale, long-haired Anglo-Saxon savior, even though the Bible clearly describes him as a bronze-skinned, woolly-haired Hebrew. And revisionist history continues right before our very eyes each time the importance of black lives is denied. What happens to unhealed souls left to linger in bodies that hold on to trauma? The immortal imprisoned by mortals who thrive on fears stoked by lies. And where do those souls go when the trauma is intergenerational? Uninformed race theory critics beget flag-waving parents professing patriotism who prefer their children pretend to be as blind to color as we purport Lady Liberty to be to justice. But she needs glasses so America can see how easy it is to be so indifferent to slavery when it's viewed solely as black history. But the holy truth is, slavery is white history too. As white as snow-covered plantations in the winter cold, as white as cotton before picked by bloody pricked fingers, as white as white abolitionists, and as white as the white men who own slaves themselves. How much of a toll does it take to drown a soul in a sea of wickedness? To twist and contort to justify an evil that annihilates human rights in the name of God? And what of the intergenerational transmission of trauma passed down to the descendants of those whose religion was genocide and theft of other human lives? And what of the souls of the descendants of the voiceless who had no choice but to stand idly by? As the fear of replacement theory reappears, the soul of America continues to dance at the dawn of the freedom Du Bois discussed in 1903. The color line continues to be problematic in a 21st century melting pot where we still celebrate Columbus Day but opt to admit his role in the slave trade. Confederate flags still get waved to commemorate defeated states whose desire to own slaves was so great they initiated an uncivil war on their own country. And every 4th of July, for the past 247 years, we have celebrated America's independence, just not its irony that the freedom did not come to everyone. Since the 19th of June, 1865, free black people have used that historical day in Galveston to celebrate the end of legal chattel slavery. But now that Juneteenth is finally a federal holiday, this is an opportunity for all of America's wounded souls to strive toward a collective healing. Lies corrected. Learning and teaching the yin and yang of our history so our children can see that we are all connected by America the beautiful and America the ugly. Juneteenth is a celebration of stamina personified, unfiltered patriotism that despite 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, 35 years of discriminatory housing, our souls undeterred still jubilee dance to this freedom deferred. We are art in motion. Through the trauma of a birth of a nation whose foundation was built upon a manifest destiny of lies, looting, and genocide, and policies and philosophies designed to keep up this racial divide, we can continue to find space to illuminate. Juneteenth is not just a black holiday, it's an American holiday. So may the Jubilee of Juneteenth Freedom Day be an invitation for all. An invitation to study the truth of our intertwined history. An invitation to celebrate our tumultuous track as we strive to unite with love and common understanding. May this Jubilee of Juneteenth Freedom Day be an invitation to heal. What happens to healed souls willingly wandering in bodies that no longer hold on to trauma? The immortal invigorated by mortals whose truth has set them free. And what happens to those souls when that freedom is intergenerational? Maybe, just maybe one day, America will know.
Join me on Next Chapter with Dr. Reeves, a journey of healing and restoration. Put yourself first. Do things that make you happy. Welcome back to Next Chapter. I'm Dr. Reeves. As always, I'm so glad you're here. I hope all is well. If you missed our previous episodes, check us out at nextchapterwithdrreeves.com. Today we have a special topic and a special guest. Today, Terrell Bilbo is here, and we're talking about money. Thank you, Mr. Bilbo, for being here with me today. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you. Welcome. As you know, and as you all know, I'm on my healing journey. And part of this journey is really trying to understand my relationship with money. So Mr. Bilbo is here to help me kind of discuss that a little bit and have a conversation about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being there. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm I'm on a mission to save the world.
Okay, you too. Okay.
Yeah. One financial house at a time. But really what I do, I've always been in finance. My whole life, I came straight out of college. I ran a mortgage company with my family. We got into real estate. So that's been my life for the last 20 something years. The last 7 years, I've been heavily focused in the blockchain and crypto space. Understanding this new form of money, this new digital economy that's coming. And it's been my job to make sure that people know what's coming, help to educate, and put people in position, because right now we're sitting in front of what I believe to be one of the largest transfer of wealth that we'll see in our lifetime. And it's all about the right information. You know, a lot of people get the wrong information and they feel things that may be good for them may be a scam or whatever the case is. But if you get the right education, I think everybody can put themselves in a great position.
That's great. I'm glad you're here. And what I really wanted to kind of talk about and start off with about my relationship with money, because we talked earlier before the show. I've never had a moment to enjoy my money ever in my whole life. So the money has never made me happy. I've made quite a bit of money, and I have been also poor too. So it really wasn't no difference to me. When I was wealthy, I think we capped it off at 2.5 million, and I was poor. I had nothing. So I always kind of felt the same way, whether I was in a good space or whether I was in a bad space.
Right.
So I never really felt good about money.
Right.
The money has never made me happy.
Right.
So now that I'm trying to get on the other side of that with my healing, why is it so important to have a good relationship with money? How do we begin to develop that? Because I think even coming out of childhood, I was probably still operating from a poor man's mentality, given my trauma, my situation. And when I, of course, finished college and had my businesses and worked my jobs, I was still in that same mindset, but I never really had any happiness with it. So I'm really trying to understand how to develop the relationship with money.
Right. And like they say, what you do to a child will last them a lifetime. So a lot of things that we go through is either our parents, how they taught us and what they said about money. I know my mom used to always be like, rob Peter to pay Paul. If the light bill's due on the 1st, we got into the 15th. All of that is broke mentality, right? So when we understand that we haven't been given the right blueprint when dealing with money. And then you said, I've been up, I had a lot of money, I had a little money. A lot of people, especially when we talk about relationship with money, a lot of people are afraid of success. Because I was talking to my mom the other day, and you will hear me reference my mom a lot because we debate, but that's where I get a lot of my thought process from. But she was saying when people want money, people gonna want things from you and things like that. And it was just like, so you're gonna stay broke because people wanna ask you for money. I was like, know how to say no.
And that's the mindset.
Yeah,
that's the mindset.
It's all a mindset.
That's the mindset. Also, let me go back for a second because you said something. Some people are afraid of success, and I really believe that.
Yeah.
I really believe. Yeah. Why? Why do you think?
Because what we've been told, and if you come from communities like we do, the guy who had the shiny cars or whatever, we know he food in the hood. Like he's gonna get robbed or somebody's gonna try to take something from him. But what I realize in being in these other rooms, they riding Lamborghinis, and they're not thinking about getting robbed at all, so it's a mentality that we've grown up because we haven't been accustomed to money.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like we're not accustomed to money, having money, what comes with money, and what we don't know, we're afraid of. So I think that's what a lot of things is. And then a lot of people, when they hear about, well, he's a millionaire, most people think that people who get rich are evil or crooked or crooks. Couldn't be furthest from the truth. Most millionaires right now started from nothing. 90% of them start from nothing. So it's like we have to re-educate and get better information, right? And that's why I love that we're doing this now, because a lot of people don't get to see the information that I've been fortunate enough to see and be in the rooms that I've been fortunate enough to be in. But this money is for us. Like God say, be fruitful and multiply. We're not used to it, and we can go back to the church. We've really been conditioned to think that, oh, I'm supposed to be poor, and it's admirable to be poor and struggle, and you'll get your payoff when you die. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is like, life is to be lived, and God wants us to be fruitful and multiply now, as in heaven, as on earth. You know what I mean? That's what we're supposed to have right now. So I just think it's a retraining, a conditioning of the brain and the mind that we all have to go through. And that takes with the trauma that we have to eliminate and get rid of. Like, it's very important.
Let me go back, because I remember my earlier days with my mom. My mother didn't have a lot of money, and we had to share food. So she would always say, well, we have salad and tuna fish. So I got so used to eating salad and tuna fish, and that was because we just didn't have a whole lot of money for food. So when I got older, I would do salad and tuna fish. So people thought, oh, you don't want to eat. I said, no, I grew up on salad and tuna fish. And also, I think as far as generational curses and old adage, they would always say, well, just work, just go work the job. Well, no, I may not want to work a certain job or do certain things. Well, just go make the money. Just go make the money and deal with whatever comes with that, because they didn't have the opportunities that we have now to have a choice. They didn't have a choice. So a lot of times I've been told in my family, oh, just go make the money. Regardless of you working 12-hour days, you don't have time to spend the money, your children are growing, you look up, the children are out the door, but they keep telling you, go make the money. And actually, I've made the money, and I have never had any time to enjoy myself. So it's definitely a mindset. It's definitely old adages and old beliefs that we were ingrained with, especially in the African-American community. Also, a lot of times we've had to bail relatives out of jail. We've had to pay for daycare services for different people. We've had to buy people cars. So a lot of times we've had our money. We've always had to help each other. But the thing about it is, I think it was hard for us to come out of that cycle. So talk to that a little bit.
So I think it's more systematic than anything, that if we really understand what's going on. So if you look at our K through 12 system there, and you can Google this, look it up. It's a group called the Gang of 10. And these were the individuals that were responsible for putting together our K through 12 curriculum. All of these guys were entrepreneurs, billionaires, millionaires, right? But there is no entrepreneurial courses in K through 12. It's nothing, because they didn't design this for us to be like them. They designed that for them to have workers.
Right.
So that's what we're in right now. We're still in that system, like we talked about earlier. Like, a lot of us are still in the Industrial Revolution age, right? That's the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and we're still there. Most of us have not made the switch to say that we're in the information age now. The value that you have and the value that will be derived is the information that you have in your mind and in your brain, and what you're able to do with that. That's what's going to change things. Because everything, like, a lot of people look at the things that I do and the things that I say and the things that I know how to do, and they like, oh, I was like, I believe I'm great.
Right,
I do believe that, right?
Of course.
But the truth of it is that I just consume a lot of information. Right. And then once I consume that information analytically, I'm able to look at what makes sense and what doesn't. We all have common sense. Like, we all can understand if something makes sense and something don't. But if you're consuming too much of the wrong thing, that too much of the wrong thing is going to make sense to you. So it's really a time for us to turn some of the things that we've been watching and try something different. Like, I really believe that's what it is, because we're expecting a different result for something that we've been doing for the last 20, 30, 50 years. Right. And we're not going to get it. That's just what it is.
And I think for me, working, I really had to understand when enough is enough. I've been reading the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and he said, you have to know when enough is enough. Right. Because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble.
But how do you know, though? See, that's the question.
Okay.
Because most of us, how do you know is enough? Because if you're not exposed to new ideas and new information, you don't know. You're doing what I feel like, and yes, it sucks, and yes, it's hard or whatever, but what else do you know to do? Like, and that's what it is. Like, most of us don't know another way. Like, we tell these kids, man, don't be in the streets, don't do this. Well, what's the alternative?
That's true.
Because right now, they say, it's a statistic say this is the only generation that feels that they have nothing to look forward to. But I understand that though, because when you look at it from the standpoint of when they get older, they're not going to be able to go and work jobs like us, retire 30 years and get Social Security. That's going to be gone.
Right.
So that's why a part of my mission is also to touch these kids and give them these soft skills that they need. Change that mind frame, because they can't do what their mom and dad did, because they're going to be lost. And, you know, this wealth divide is already tremendous. But when you look at what's getting ready to happen with cryptocurrency and things like that, man, it will be insurmountable. People will not be able to catch up if they don't catch this wave.
You so black. You so black. When you smile, the stars come out. You so black. When you born, the God come out. Black is night. Black is pyramids and mathematics. Black is melanized and magic. Black with privilege. Black with pride. Black on purpose, on the black hand side. Black and beautiful. Black and blessed and highly favored, ain't we black and blessed? Black and so much more. Black and nothing less. Black and educated. Black is brilliant. Black is strong. Black is resilient. Black is song. Black is infinite like hip-hop or space. Black is grace. Black is love. Black makes babies. Black babies grow up. Black is tough. Black is tough. Black is tough. Black is hard to do. Black is me. Black is you. Black is not something that we get to choose, but it is something that we get to cherish. It's something that we get to wear, and we get to rock this with honor. So yeah, I'm black like my granddaddy, and my great-great-great-grandmama. Black is that lift every voice and sing. Black is that letting your freedom ring and resound. Black is adjective, adverb, color, and noun. Baby, you so black. When you're born, the God come out.
I come from a family of entrepreneurs. If you want to call us hustlers, it is what it is. But my family, my last name is Bilbo. My family is responsible for a lot of the establishment of Lake Charles, Louisiana, like a lot of the wood, the puckwood and things that to build the city out, my family was a part of that. So we come from entrepreneurs. We come with people that build with their hands and create things, right? So I think it's just innate in me, right? But then when I got out of college, I went straight into mortgages. My cousin J.C. Bilbo was a vice president of Washington Mutual at the time. And basically everything that didn't land on their desk landed on ours. So that's how I cut my teeth in the real estate game. So I've always been on the financial side of everything, because basically the person who has the money runs everything, right? So I was blessed to be in that position early. And then from there, it's just a cycle. Right? Once you indoctrinated or introduced to something, you just know it. I can't unlearn what I was doing in 2003. And I've done millions of dollars in real estate. I've done it all really in real estate, in business, period. Ups, downs, and sideways. I've been there. But that's just been my training ground for 20 something years now.
So the average person doesn't have that kind of training, Mr.
No, they don't.
So what would you say to the average person on changing your mindset? Like you said, we're already in the information age.
Right.
Things are changing, and they're changing quickly. And what you're saying, if you miss this boat, we're gonna miss it.
Right.
So how does the average person, if they're coming from a low income or poverty, or maybe trauma-based family environment, how does one begin to change their mindset and feel better? Because I'm just now starting to feel better about money. And I remember watching Sue Orsman, and she said, if you have your money balled up in your purse, there's no value. And I said, oh my goodness, because I would always have my money balled up in my purse, and it was just like another sheet of paper to me.
Right.
It didn't have value to me because, for one, I never could enjoy it. Number two, I didn't have a relationship with it. Like you said, I do have a relationship with it, but it wasn't a good relationship.
Right.
So how does the average person begin to change their mindset and feel good about money, regardless if they have $10, $100,000, $10,000? How do you begin to change your mindset?
I think you change your mindset, especially when it comes to money, is discipline, right? And then understanding what money is, right? People say, well, money is the root of all evil. Money is a piece of paper with a person's face on it. It's really, you know what I mean? That's what it is. So you got to look at money as a tool to get to where you need to go, right? A hammer is a hammer. A hammer can build a house or it can hurt somebody. It's how you use it, right? But people put so much stock in on money, but it ain't the money. The money can't do nothing. If you give me $1 million, and that's why people overvalue money. I say that with investors all the time.
That's good.
People overvalue money because the true value comes with the ideas that you bring to money, not the money itself.
But let's stop right there, Mr. Bilbo. A lot of times people can't even get there because they're so.
All right, I'm gonna bring it.
Okay.
So again, first and foremost is discipline, right? Saying that I'm gonna do a different thing than I've been doing, right? Because even with money, you can look at money. I'm going to work. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, but it ain't working out for me. Okay, well that tells you that maybe I need to do something different. So maybe just being open to new information is a starting process. You know what I mean? You have to be open to saying, well, what I'm doing not working. Let me get more information. Right, so I think that's a starting point for most people to say, hey, let me try something different. Right,
based on what your goals and ideas and your dreams are.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people like my dad used to always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's what I think a lot of people do. They have no idea of where they're going. They just really, a lot of us are just going through the motions.
And I think a lot of us are just paying bills, rent, light, if you have a car note. I think we're just in this machine, just paying bills the way it was designed for us to be consumers,
just
to keep their system going,
Absolutely.
So I don't, people have gotten so depressed when they don't have a certain amount of money or they don't feel a certain way or look a certain way, and it's all based out of money.
Because they tie their identity and who they are to things.
They do.
And that's what it is. This is like, once you get to the point where you understand that the value lies within, and this is it, and we don't have to get super metaphysical about it, but the thing about it is the things that show up in your life are 100% your fault, right? You're 100% responsible for that. And when you fix the things that's inside, the things on the outside are going to show up like they need to.
And that's why I'm saying to you all and to myself, this is why the healing is so important.
Absolutely.
You have to understand who you are and where you're going. And I'm at a place now where I have to have the healing because money is on my journey. Money is on my journey.
Yeah.
I have to figure this out. So I'm doing a call of action to you all. Figure out what works for you. Make money and developing a good relationship with money a good habit for yourself. Develop a different mindset.
And another thing that I would say, when you're talking about people how you get started, right? Realize this, there's an expert in everything that you want to do, right? There's somebody who's already done it. So you just have to follow. A lot of people, I come from a generation where, we went to our uncles, we went to our big cousins to get information, to get game from them. That was what you needed to do. But now, we live in a generation where the people listen to everybody outside of the people who really love you. And sometimes the people who really love you, to care for you, can't tell you nothing.
That's true.
So I get it. But just to know that there's nothing new under the sun. There's been money since the dawn of time, regardless of what the exchange was. And there was always somebody who was successful in money. So if you understand that, find a mentor. Find somebody who can help you. I always said my job for everybody is to cut your time in half, right? That's what I always want to do because I've been through it all, up, down, and sideways.
So how do you do that?
What?
Cut your time in half.
No, that's my job for
Okay.
other people.
Right, I
Right.
see.
So how you cut your time in half is getting with somebody who's already done it. That's how you cut your time in half, right? Because for me in business, like I said, my cousin was at the bank. We started on a lot of it. We had to figure out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But now I done done all the figuring for you, so you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest. Like God takes you do different things so you can help other people.
Absolutely.
It's not for you to hold it and
It's
keep
not.
it to yourself.
It's not.
You're supposed to help somebody with the trials that you've been through.
Absolutely.
So that's what I feel like. That's my mission and my purpose is.
What do we need to know to prepare ourselves for what's coming?
Well, I put it like this. 1971, we came off of the gold standard when it comes to the US dollar, right? Which means basically every dollar at that particular time was backed by gold. So if I give you $1,000, it had to have the same $1,000 in the bank, right? Mm-hmm. Well, 71, Nixon took us off the gold standard, which means that allowed the government then to print as much as money as they want. Right, so imagine you go to the beach and you see tons of sand. When you pick a handful of sand up, do you say, "Oh, this is valuable"? No, why? Because it's so much out here, right? So if they can just print as much money as you want, then the dollar becomes worth less at that particular time, right? So we've been in this system for almost 50, going on 60 years now. So we've gotten to the point where our dollar is being debased. That's why look at COVID, right? In 2 years, your home values went from 50 to 100%, and you didn't put no paint on it, you didn't do no rehab, but it increased in value. Why? Because they pumped trillions of dollars into the market, made the dollar worth less. So it's going to take more of that dollar to get this asset. So when we understand this is happening, right, and the only people that are going to make money and be okay are the people who own assets. If you don't own assets, then basically it's going to cost you more to buy things, right? So if I have an asset and it went up in value sky high, right, I got richer. But for you who don't have an asset, guess what? You got to try to buy this asset that just went sky high, and you don't have the money to do it. So when we look at that, the biggest opportunity that I see, that I would call it the leveling of the playing field, is cryptocurrency. Okay. Because you can buy an asset. And I take it back to, have you ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street, the movie?
Yes.
Okay, so remember when the stock market crashed or whatever, and then he went to the little broker shop, right? And then he started making money when he started selling the penny stocks.
That's what it was, the penny stocks.
The penny stocks to the big guys. Well, guess what? JP Morgan, BlackRock, Fidelity, all of these guys are coming into crypto. So it's the same thing. The big guys are fixed to start buying the penny stocks. And if you get in the penny stocks before the big guys dump billions and billions of dollars into it, you have the opportunity to front run billions of dollars and change your life. And it doesn't take a lot to do it.
What would you say to the parents? Because I have a 15-year-old son. What would you say to the parents as far as what we need to teach our children from this moment on, as far as money and crypto and currency and things of that nature?
I would tell them, learn as much as you can. Learn, because this is, with AI and all of these things that are coming to the forefront, like our kids are not going to be able to go get that job at Walmart. The robots are coming, right? They're not going to be able to like in the airport, you know how the porters push you to your gate now? Right. That's gone. Now they got robots. So that little $20, $30 tip that you were getting for pushing people on a day, that's out of the question now. So we have to teach our kids to look. I mean, they're doing it anyway. Like I teach kids right now. I was doing a program over there at Worthing High School where I'm teaching these kids financial literacy. But if you're going to be on this phone, make money with the phone. Right. Like that's what people don't understand. It's all about digital assets now. You got to have a digital asset. I don't care if it's an ebook. I don't care if it's cryptocurrency. You have to have something digital because that's what we're moving towards. Okay. Yeah. So you just got to make sure that they teach them how to trade. A lot of things. I was on my phone the other day and I was just making some transactions, right? So I was going to this one exchange, buying this coin, putting it in my wallet, and I'm doing all of this in my phone. And it really dawned on me, like, I don't know if you ever seen like the trading floor of the Wall Street, like back in the day, it was crazy. Right? It was. I can do all that from my phone now. Like, that's huge. It is. That is huge.
I hadn't thought about that.
So it's just like learning the skill, because that's what's going to bring value to the world. Right. Like if you don't have a skill, because think about it, if you don't have a job, right, and they're not hiring like that, but you don't have any skill, then what are you?
What are you going to do?
You're a drain on society. And I don't know if you guys have heard about universal income, but look it up, do some Googling. But that is the thing. So the people who can't provide value, they got to put them in a section, and the government has to take care of them.
Absolutely.
So it's like, learn, get the skills. Put yourself in position to provide for yourself and your family. Because again, I always say, if you invite people to feed you, you invite them to starve you as well. Like myself, I have a master class that I give every Thursday and Saturday where it takes you from A to B in crypto. And most people, I say, people come to me for crypto, but they leave with a lot more. Okay. Because I do focus on the mental and the mindset, because it's something that I'm really proud of. God dropped it in my spirit when it comes to financial literacy and healing. But I have a journal that I made, 30 days of wellness, okay, right? Taking breathing techniques to deal with anxiety, right? Because I can teach you about crypto, I can teach you all those things, but when you're at home and you're getting ready to make a move, your anxiety or your bad relationship with money is going to intervene, and you're going to make a bad decision, right? So if I can help you say, hey, let's get centered, let's bring it down, let's understand where we are, and then do some of that healing first, then it just, I don't know, it just happens that way, that everything seems to work out a little bit better.
Our homework for this session is to examine your relationship with money. Number 1, identify and assess your financial mistakes. Number 2, make a list of factors that have influenced your relationship with money. And number 3, identify any financial pain and trauma from the past and look at how it affects your current behaviors. Let me know how you're doing at www.nextchapterwithdrreeves.com. Take care.
Today's program has been brought to you by Tarsha Gary, your Texas Realtor, providing trust and value to every real estate transaction. Brought to you by Mortgage Dynamics, financing your dream investment. Brought to you by Bob Tolley Productions.